and welcome. And thank you so much for the feedback I received last time, as I shared with you when we were talking about whole home organization. That was just a lot of fun. But you guys were all asking me in return, hey, Cam, can we have some very specifics on what I need to do? My bad, super nervous. I'm so used to talking to everybody in live action. So, one thing that really helps me to be less nervous actually is if you have your video on but muted, just so I can see you. We get some hand gestures. Thank you. Hello, Kathleen. Hi, ladies. Thank you. I just feel energy that way and it calms me down to know I'm not just talking to myself. So, today, we are talking about creating the best home office and what that means to you and how you guys are feeling. We're also using the chat feature in Zoom, which I have also figured out, and I can see it and be live time action there. What we're going to be starting with is a lot of clarity about what 2020 did to our work life and how, for me, it flipped completely upside down. And I'll share a little personal story there with you and some action tips. But I really would love to know, when it comes to home organization, but more so your home office space, what for you had changed? Were you used to going to the office? Have you always worked from home? Do you like working from home? Any challenges? Feel free to pop that in the chat and I will get to those later. They're always helpful as we go along here. So if my slides are all working appropriately, I'll be very happy as well. But the first thing I wanted to share with you all, this was just a fun, really unexpected, exciting thing that happened for me. And a big thank you to all of you who tuned in on the first webinar. I looked at that night after the webinar. I'm like, oh, how did I do? I was all nervous. Wasn't sure what to expect. My book hit number 6 on Amazon. Big deal. I was super excited. I'm like, oh my gosh, how does this even happen? Apparently, you need to check every hour and the ranking changes. So, for those of you that are interested in the story, interested in taking a deep dive to getting organized and make an impact this year, my book is available for you. I will pitch it once here and I will pitch it once at the end, and that's it. And there is an offer here for you. It's a huge discount. And we can all celebrate together on Amazon and see where it ranks, which is fun. So I'll be checking it every hour till midnight tonight. Okay, let's dive into it. So an organized work environment can shift an entire company. This is so true. If we're talking about something that is at scale, to make the biggest impact, a lot of these companies right now in COVID, a lot of small businesses to large businesses are looking at the internal workings of their company, some making really rash decisions, and some are making more small, thoughtful, slower decisions that can make a high impact. So when I organize in my business, and my philosophy is that whatever you're doing, whatever steps that you're taking, make them high impact. Don't waste your time on the little stuff. And so I would offer that advice as we look at our home office and the ripple effect it really can have within our community and our company simply by getting organized. It increased profit margins for companies that are efficient in streamlining their businesses, their productivity, morale of an entire team when everybody knows where they're working towards is huge. recently my fiance just did a tour of a local spa company, and it's funny because in this pandemic it's really shifted things for small business. Some didn't survive, some had to really look at what they're doing and make a pivot to stay in business. A lot of the restaurants now moving outside, um, and now takeout orders is a huge thing in 2020. We went to our favorite place in Mill Creek and got a burger. And it's like there's no wait staff there anymore because they're all in the kitchen hustling out to go orders. So can you imagine that the ripple effect of changing organizing systems to pivot with the times is so crucial and important, and it can either make or break a business. So something to keep in mind when people talk about, can tidying your desk or space really change your life? Yeah, it can change economies, businesses, lives. This is why I love this stuff. So our environment shapes our day-to-day experience, and it can also hold us back if it's full of clutter. So this is the reality of what COVID, I talked about a little bit on the last webinar, that all of a sudden we're working from home. I don't know about you, but my life has always been on the go. I've always had a suitcase packed, always working on the go. So I structured my lifestyle to be working on the go. 2020 happened, boom, I'm at home. I have to figure out Zoom with my team. Our files were physical service agreements for home organizing. And this huge shift happened, between the physical clutter and digital clutter, and how to make all of that work. We were forced to figure that out within months, or else we weren't going to survive as a business. So we really looked at several times of how our systems were actually holding us back from certain successes. So as you're sitting at home looking at your environment, how are you feeling by your space? Do you feel inspired by it? Do you feel like you really need to fix that door on your bedroom to keep your kids out, or maybe just put a lock on it? Like, you're just thinking of all these things maybe you hadn't thought of before the pandemic, of how important our environment, our work environment has become. I feel inspired to win the lottery and buy a bigger house, Patricia says. Right? It's funny because when the pandemic happened, I was dating a father with two children, little children. And at the time, he was in an apartment and I was between my farm and city. So we had very different lifestyles to begin with. And we just thought, this is a great time to start a relationship and get engaged. And we did move to that bigger house, which we fell in love with and have made it our home. One thing I would change if I could go back in time now, I'm like, why didn't I give myself an office space? Like, why didn't I do that? So then the battle, COVID happened, and we had to get rid of our office space that we finally achieved, which was a big deal for us girls from Yelm running a small business. We were just at the peak of our season in March, spring cleaning. And then we had to abandon our office space because our business was completely shut down. We were on lockdown. And so now I find myself in this beautiful home and we have a shop space. So I thought, we can do something with that. I can turn that into an office space. So like many of you, initially I was looking at, what offices could I make an office space out of in my home? That's the first thing you do. Is there a closet? Is there, like, what nook and cranny have I not explored in this house to its fullest potential? And that's where I started. When I was at my farm in Covington with my grandmother before we merged households, there's a mother-in-law on the farm where I stayed. She was in her A-frame house there in Covington. And again, I didn't have an office space. And I'm like, oh, this has just been a thing. So I looked at my tree house on my farm and I thought, we're going to try to make this happen. So I hustled every piece of loveliness that I thought could make an office space. As much of what you're seeing now was in my tree house. So it went from a tree house, we merged households, still had this issue of office space, went to a shed space. And everywhere I went, there was a heating issue. I'm cold all the time. Like it just never felt right. And then I thought, I'm abandoning all this again. I'm going to try to make our bedroom work. Raise your hand if you are or have tried having your office space in your bedroom, or maybe you just feel like whoever's home just thinks you're home because you're home and they like come barging in, it's like, I'm not here, right? I think, yeah, a lot of us can relate to that. But like many of you, I started this journey in the pandemic, like just trying to find space. Where can I take up space? This is very important to me. And I would be lying if I said it was an instant process. No. Impactful each time and thought out, yes, but this change it's okay to be progressive. Even if the clutter of your environment right now is maybe you're feeling as though you're being held back a bit, there are always small improvements that you can make to make an impact. So we're going to talk more about that as well. Oh, fun fact. 28% of employers are less likely to promote someone with messy workspaces. So this was from careerbuilder.com. And I thought that was really, again, I haven't been in a workspace environment in a long time. We just moved into our new office space and it's under construction. So I'm sitting here in an empty building by myself with all of you. So I don't get the pleasure of seeing all these crazy office spaces, but I remember kind of walking by and just seeing some people that did a theme, or they had their kids on every square inch of their cubicle and just paperwork. How many doctors and lawyers I've worked with over the years, and they have their case files on their desk, and a part of me misses seeing that a little bit, that life, that activity. And then some of you are like, oh no, like I'm living in that. And I don't like this. Either way, it's okay. Chaos, clutter, it can be a negative. Yes. It can negatively impact your mental health. Yes. But I choose to look at it as a guiding point of clarity. Knowing what you don't want is hugely powerful. Especially if you're feeling like I don't know what I want. I know I want something better than this. And that's the starting point. That's the clarity you can take away. If you're looking at your space and you're feeling like, oh, yeah, this can hold me back, or I don't like this representation of me in this way. That's a starting point. And take that as a win and as a positive, because from that everything else can build. So getting that clarity is step one. So what does your workspace look like a year into COVID? So have any of you guys been in transition as far as your workspace during COVID? Again, let me know, comments or hands. How many times did it transition for you? Where did you start and where are you right now? I can tell you 3 or 4 times my office space has moved, and I finally feel that I'm in a space where I'm like, okay, I've hit a baseline I can work with. COVID changed a lot of things for many of us. And it's just so interesting to figure out and learn people's journeys, because it is a journey. No, none of this we're expecting this, that we would be homeschooling our children, job loss, job transition, home transition. Um it's a lot for any one person to process. We're all in this together. So if you're feeling a little frazzled by your space, we all are. It's okay. We're all at different points. Um, but just know that this is a changing of times. If you felt maybe before in your work life that you were, you love writing everything down and paper, but maybe something now is asking you to go more digital with things, and you're feeling frustrated with, I know, technology and doing all of these things online. What is that baseline? Like, how do I get started? What are those little things? I'm just going to read a little bit of the chat because you guys are on fire with this chat situation, and I'm too excited to read any of it. My partner is an artist from Anne. He and I are sharing the living room for office studio space. At times it's very cozy, and other times I want to scream. But I had an open office space cubicle at UW. So really, this is a better setup working from home.
And Cami, a lot of people too have been sharing. Sounds like a lot of people are working from dining room tables, sharing work from home space with kids doing remote school, and partners also working from home, family members working from home. And lots of people sharing that they don't have, or they can't find designated office space within their home. Seems to be a common theme so far.
And I'm curious to know, have you identified exactly what doesn't work? And what I mean by that is it the desk that doesn't work? Is it the chair that's kind of broken? Is it the lighting? We just need a new light for this space. Is it just? If you find yourself saying that throughout the day, start writing those justs out. If I just had XYZ, not that that's going to be the thing that solves it all. Only really an expert can come in your space and go, let's do this, because they look at spaces all day long and they can see it from their perspective, right? But if you're trying to DIY and trying to make some improvements, what is the if I only, or if I had a client I was talking with the other day, and she's like, no, there's a door on my office, but it doesn't close all the way. And it needs like this thing fixed, and then it kind of snowballed from there. And I'm like, okay, but what if we just fix this one thing? How much of an impact would we have? She's like, tremendous. So writing those down can be super, super helpful. So are you happy with the space you have now? Some people are. They are loving working from home. They have found that otherwise their life dynamic would never look this way, and it does work really well for them. And then there's those of us that are like, no, this is not ideal. This is not fun or cute. But we're gonna make do anyway. And I'm with that group of people. Um, we can always make do, we can always make better, and we can always make an impact. So let me give you a few quick tips right where we're at right now, because you guys are loving like specific tips and I'm really bad at giving them. So I wrote some down. So creating a project plan right from the space that you're in. Something that my general manager and I did one day when we got into this office space, I said, okay, it's a blank canvas space. We've earned it. We've gotten ourselves an office space, picked ourselves back up, ramping up from COVID. Everything's looking very optimistic. But now that we have a blank space, I want to be strategic from the very beginning. For some of you that don't have that opportunity, how do you get yourself that blank space? just doing a quick tidy, starting with the floor, then desk surface spaces, categorizing into large categories if that's paperwork, a photo project. Getting your projects in chunks is huge. That right there makes an impact. Step outside your room and take a picture and look at the picture. It helps you see your own space from a fresh perspective to start with, because you need a project plan. Pretend you're an interior designer. That is how I like to start every single project in space. And looking at, people are always referencing Marie Kondo. What brings you joy? I like to ask my clients, well, what doesn't bring you joy? Let's start making decisions from that space and removing them from the environment. And then what things do bring joy? So in my office space, I have some things that bring me joy. I also found this amazing picture. This is my organized little caddy on my desk. This amazing picture of my grandma Pauline that I found. With her husband had just passed it's been almost a year, I think now. We were going through photos and now it's on my desk. And it was shoved away somewhere. And I'm like, that hair, that blue eyeshadow, his smile, like every time I see that, I feel a certain way. So putting things that really don't spark joy and do spark joy, tagging on to Marie Kondo style, getting a definitive answer of what that is. If you still have a picture of your ex and you by your desk, that would be maybe one quick tip you can get rid of. We want new, we want fresh, we want innovative. We want things that bring joy right at our fingertips. So here we go. Moving on to 3 areas that make an impact in your workspace. So I wanted to give you 3 zones, 3 spaces, 3 areas that we can really just deep dive into for a little bit. If I'm starting with a new client and let's just say it looks like their office space exploded and they're in tears and they're like, I don't know where to start. Absolutely fine. Here's where I would start with these 3 things, no matter what. So we're going to deep dive a little further into your desk space, task management, how to really rope some of these projects in, and digital clutter. That seems to be a top one, especially right now, with COVID, with learning how to live online a bit, has been a huge transition for people where they either are really comfortable with it because they had been doing it, or kind of like me, I'm on the cusp millennial and I'm like, I still like to write everything down, but so much of what everything is online and moving that forward. So if you have any questions or would like to know something specific, this is the thing. If you can chat with me on that, I can answer it. So if it's in regard to your desk space, task management, digital clutter, if something really stands out there, go ahead and put it in the chat. I'm going to take 1 second to read and catch up what has been going on in the chat. What doesn't work is basically being in the kitchen. All the snacks. Ooh, if only I had a separate room with office. I was in the kitchen for a little bit too. And I wasn't really good at buying snacks until COVID. And now I'm really good at buying snacks. So I can relate. I have to have snacks. I have to have a coffee. These are my essentials on my desk. Have to have water. I have to have certain things when I sit down. Do you have to have what are your top like 3 things you need to keep on your desk that either they're snackies, they're alarms? What are your top 3? Finally got a large monitor to use with my laptop. Only took a year. I just went to Costco and got my monitor too. Pretty life changing when I figured it out.
I see a question here from Jace. Jace says, what do you do with the kids' stuff? My kids have left, but I have all of their books.
Her kids have left.
Yeah, I'm assuming just not in the workspace but just having kids clutter around.
So I don't know how much this relates to the office space, but I'm sure you can find the common thread in the story. It just came top of mind. I was in the shower the other day and I see this. If you know what a boo-boo corn is, please raise your hand. I'm new, but I'm new to having littles around the house. And okay, yes, thank you. A boo-boo corn is this very small death trap of a toy that you can step on and it hurts really bad. And I found it in my shower, and I usually keep, the kids love our shower. It's like a rainfall shower. They have an experience. They're always in there. So their toys come in there, but their toys always go with them as well. That's the quick tip, is if they bring them in, we bring them out just when they're done, when they're away. It's a constant. You will always find yourself picking up after little tornadoes. If you don't find that an issue and your house is just magically organized and clean all the time, you're amazing. I can't wait to learn more about your tips. But this boo-boo corn found its way into my shower, and it just reminded me of like, this is my territory. This is my bubble. Your bubble is here. We just need that. We need those boundaries. And I think more so than creating the physical space, to whether it be pretty, whether it be private, is just setting some really great boundaries and letting everybody know why and why it's so important. Like, I need this dedicated space to make this work. We're grateful to be working. I need this to work. So just setting some really great boundaries and having that discussion is really important. I've had them in my home, and it's gone through a couple of renditions too, and that's okay.
And another question says, tips for organizing and do you have tips for organizing and transitioning spaces that have to serve multiple functions? For example, my desk is my bedside table because that's really all that's available in our small space.
Yes. So spaces that are in transition, I have a client, and myself included, who like they need to change it up a lot. They don't want a designated area. They want to bop from their kitchen. They want to sit in their living room. They need like different lighting, different vibe. So they'll bop around, but they have little zones created. Even if it's that small side table, awesome. What your environment will be telling you is, yes, it would be great to win the lottery and have some more options, but where you are right now is really a beautiful place to start, and it's great. If you're on this call, you are in the right place. Your environment can support you, even if it's just a nightstand and that's your work table. Make it the best space ever. Get it minimal. Don't have 20 pens. Maybe you just need 2 really good ones. Maybe you don't need the whole Costco stack of sticky notes next to you, just one of them. Giving yourself a little bit of freedom, structure, but minimal in small spaces is key.
And I can read one more question that popped out to me. I know there's so many great comments in the chat. Is what about for those of us who are visual people? For some people, really to try and be organized with small spaces where there's a lot of clutter, but you're visual, so you're really inspired kind of by your visual surrounding.
So you're in a small space and it's cluttered, but you're a visual person. Yes, absolutely. So I will share something that just came to mind because I'm always in an environment growing up and otherwise where you need to make do, you need to make better a little bit. So our office space here in Belltown, they have had major setbacks, major pushbacks on construction timelines. Outside of this window next to me is just a little bit of a construction site. So I just added some curtains that I had around the house, and it created a bit of separation and clarity. So looking at your space and uh, asking yourself, what things can I do to make a large impact? If there are lots of something, how do you contain it in a way? Even binning, if we were to come into a really cluttered space, our starting point is to bin everything up into categories. And so finding bins that are in a pleasant color. I know places like Lowe's and Target and all that right now with spring coming up, they have like really a colored tote or a white tote, something that's not see-through. So when it's stacked, it makes a little bit of a statement with a nice label. I would rather see a wall of beautifully organized bins than clutter everywhere. So it's finding that step one, that foundation level, and getting it to that point. If you're looking for specific products, please let me know. I can also add a link to our website for any, again, these are just products that make an impact. That's a whole nother discussion on like products for organizing. I don't personally like to buy a lot of products. I like to buy very specific products that will work long term and that is aesthetically pleasing, because that is really important.
A few people are commenting, yes, specific organization tools, please. Products that make an impact or systems that make an impact in our visual systems.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so far, I'm not seeing too many other direct questions in the chat. Lots of discussion.
Yeah, that's fun. Annalie, I think, got a small desk and chair off of Craigslist for really cheap and made it a huge difference from working on the kitchen table or couch. A really true life event that I would love to talk about as well is these tweaks or impacts don't have to be very expensive, and now stores are opening up, which is great. But for people on a budget that love OfferUp, love a good deal, loves Craigslist, for a while, that was the only way you were really going to get furniture because a lot of places were shut down. So a lot of women community groups on Facebook, we even for us with clients, they wanted to get rid of furniture and maybe revamp, which can benefit someone else, but Goodwill wasn't even taking it. Like the lines were just wrapped around for blocks. We're still experiencing that right now. They're not taking certain things. So tapping into your community also and just asking, hey, I'm looking for a new office chair, or I really love this chair on Pinterest. Any advice? And so people love to be encouraging and helpful. So if you're ever looking at your space and you're not sure what would be that thing to zhuzh up your space, snapping a photo of it and just posting it to a friend or a family member, or if you're comfortable enough to put something like that on social media, you'll get a lot of feedback and hopefully a lot of positive feedback that will be very helpful as well. So that's great. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the desk space. So we are in our office space, and the prime functionality in space that we're going to be talking about is the desk space. What's the biggest takeaway? Maybe it's not obvious, but I think it should be. Keeping your desk space minimal. Keeping the things that you have on your physical desktop extremely minimal. Your favorite pens, your notepad, a few projects that you've laid out ahead of time that you're working on for the day. Keeping everything functional and minimal on your desktop, your physical desktop. I would go to say your digital desktop as well. But just keeping in mind, like, I'm trying to clear, I'm trying to minimize. And if you always have that mantra in mind, you're going to hit that maintenance level. You're going to make room, make space, make time to make minimal. Another tip is to only keep current projects. So for a lot of my clients, everything's a project. Their paperwork is all over the place, and they feel like everything is on fire at the same time, which I know that feeling very well. The first thing you would do is get all your projects together in a manila envelope, or not manila envelope. My gosh, it's just a folder. You know what I'm talking about. This is all you really need to organize paperwork. You don't need anything fancy. You don't need a crazy filing system. This is just where you would start. And putting your paperwork into large categories first. And that is just that's your baseline for organizing paperwork, but for organizing your projects. And then you look at your projects, you look at all your little babies, and you go, okay, which ones are screaming the loudest? Those loud ones are what you're going to prioritize for the day. For today's projects, those live on your desk. Everything else does not. So I know some of you will be like, that's not going to work for me. And it might not. But that is what I would offer to try and to start with. That's the baseline that I give everyone. Second to that is under or near your desk storage for quick grab items, files, printing, anything that's not an immediate project should be at your fingertips at some level around your immediate body. And making that available to you. Let me know if you're feeling like, no, my space is too small, like I'm struggling with files. I'm happy to narrow down and give a little bit more clarity on this too. I'll give you an example of my current office space and everything that I have at my fingertips and how it's organized. Would that be helpful? So all my desk space, that's obviously a cleared surface space. Only current projects live on my desk space. Under or near my desk space, quick grab. So what do I have? I have a suitcase over here. This was the smartest thing I figured out in this office space. So I don't have a ton of space, but I have a lot of photography, videography equipment. If anybody is into that, you know it gets everywhere. And coordinating cords and pieces and your GoPro and lenses and chargers, like it became a whole thing to organize, but I need it in my office space. I also need it to be on the go with me. So that is what lives in this adorable suitcase that is usually just sitting around until we go travel, which is not often enough because of COVID. But it's found a new home, a new purpose, super cute in the office space that also functions for organization. Something else that I have over here at my quick grab snacks which I show you this trail mix, but really there's usually much better snacks in there. We got granola bars. Sometimes there's a Dr. Pepper in there. Just depends on how I ate them all. So now I'm just stuck with all the healthy ones, which is lame. It's lame. Face masks, the new thing in our life. We also have to have them now that I'm in a workspace. I have to have them when I go to the bathroom. When I leave this 10 by 10 room, I have to have my mask. So that's something now that we have to have at Quick Grab, but it has a home in here. And everything else at the bottom is contained and organized for quick reference. I do not even own a filing cabinet. I just have this. That's all I have. And in here are projects. These are all my crying babies. And the loudest babies live on my desk. And every other baby just finds a nice, comfortable home here until I have time to address it. But it's within quick reach. So I hope that helps give you a little bit of a tour of how having things minimal to start, current projects on your desktop, and then your under or near desk storage space. You just need something. It doesn't have to be big or grand, just minimal and something at your fingertips. Okay. Any questions about that? Feel free to write it in the chat. I need a reason to get up and walk around, so I'm reading the chat. So I try not to have food at my desk. I used to have to get up and go to the printer copy. I love that. Yes. So you could take that opposite too, and strategically putting things at a distance that is of importance so you do get up. For those of you who are always at your desk, that's a really great strategy to implement. So thank you, Patricia, for sharing that, because that is very true and I think brilliant. Okay, so moving into task management, I'm going to give you 3 tips here. So we're now in our office. We've established the zone of our desktop space, how to keep that clear and organized. Now we want to know how to tackle those tasks, paperwork, tasks, projects. The first thing I do every single day is I write everything out. Everything that is in my head, I take a notebook and I write everything out. Every baby that's crying, everything that's running through my head, I just let it drip out onto a piece of paper. Then I will go through and then I can edit. And when I edit, I can then prioritize my edits. So there's different layers. The problem that I see the most often when people start their work day, for some of you, like, this may be a little TMI, but my partner, he literally gets up, does his business super fast, too fast for my comfort. And then he's out the door in the car, kisses me on the head, like all happens at like lightning speed. And that is how his day starts, right? I'm so opposite. Like, he'll stay home from work certain days and I'm like listening to music. There's a candle going. I'm getting ready for the day. That's a really good day. But how you start your day and how you start your tasks and having that foundation is crucial to not feeling the chaos of the clutter that all your projects can have. You can both be, physical and digital in your task management or in your project management. It's okay to have both. So if you're feeling like, yes, I want to learn more over here, or I wish it was this way, just know you're in the right place. Everybody is evolving into digital much, much more. And I would encourage a few applications here that can help with that. Um, and I'll give those to you in the next slide in digital clutter. Ending and preparing for the next day's task. So it's really important in your office space to clear your desk every single day and make sure it's cleared and you've done the day. You have done the best you can today. And then prepare yourself for tomorrow. I like to chunk out any projects that need to go over to tomorrow on my desk. Um, and that's just a working system, is ending and preparing for the next day's tasks. Any questions on that before I move on to digital clutter?
Can you say a little more about preparing for the next day? Like, how much time do you spend on that?
I that doesn't take really, because I organize all my projects by large category, and whatever top 3 is the most high important that I must get done that day. If for some reason a project over here doesn't get done, it would carry on to the top of tomorrow's, but I would always have the one stack that I'm working for, I would say for the week. That would be generous to say that it's a week's worth of projects I usually have, and I take the top 3 from the day and either complete them or move them, complete them or move them. Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. For digital clutter, again, kind of knowing where you are on the spectrum of more physical or digital clutter. But if you want to start, and maybe you're not sure, like me, I was kind of just tiptoeing my way into the digital world. A great place to start if you have an iPhone is in your Notes app. It just took me a minute to realize how amazing the Notes app. It's a basic app that comes with an iPhone. You can scan documents, voice memos, text dictate, which is my favorite thing that I'm really honing in on. It's taking me a while, but that's okay. It's a really great app to just practice and start with, and nobody needs to know about it because it's right there on your phone. So it doesn't have to be a perfected system, but also it's a great place to organize your notes, to create a larger notebook, to start to organize and practice that way. Another thing that I would love to offer is, on a grander scale, having a platform that supports digital organization. 2 that we really, really love are the Monday app. It's called Monday, and Google Drive. Those are our 2 hubs for a lot of sharing. This Google slide that you're seeing here today, it's a platform that has really helped us during COVID and to keep everything digital, very organized for us. So those are really great platforms that I would recommend as well. So a few takeaways. Everything you own needs to have a home. So if it doesn't have a home, that's a really great place to edit and categorize. Aim to have a clear desk at the end of the workday. Keep your workspace professional and personal items to a minimum. Obviously, if we're at home, that's a little bit different, but I would still encourage you to find the balance of inspiration and functionality, and what little changes can you make to make that big impact. I'm done. So again, told you second plug for the book was coming at the end. We have this link here available for you. I'm super excited to watch what happens on Amazon. You guys took it to number 6 on the bestsellers list on Amazon last time we were on. And there was like chat happening, and I was late to the game, but I'm on top of it. So I'll be checking every hour today to see where we hit on the ranking for the sales of the book. Can't thank you all enough. This is super fun. We do have just a few more minutes. I hope you got some really clear, great takeaways from today, that you're feeling that you have a starting point of where you want to go with your home office space, what clarity this conversation has brought. So I'm excited to discuss that a little bit more in the chat or Q&A, since we have a few minutes time for that.
One question we just got is, how often do you rotate things that inspire you, like wall hangings or artwork?
Personally, I change it often-ish. There's some staples that will always stay. For example, this thing, my dog, is a little Jack Russell, and it holds my business cards. That will always stay on my desk. But there's some things that won't, whether it's a photo, this piece of technology right here that I'm not sure I'm in love with. I'm constantly editing, always.
Keeping an eye here. Oh, can you post the discount URL again? Yeah, Julie, I can go ahead and send you a direct link for that. It's on our Get Organizing page here. If you go ahead and look at this webpage, I just sent it in the group chat. You can scroll down to, it says upcoming workshops and webinars, and there's a drink like right there. It says if interested, purchase with discount by clicking here. That'll take you right to Amazon with the discount ready to load in there. And you guys are welcome to raise your hand too if anyone has questions, specific questions you'd like to ask. You don't feel like typing it out. Thanks again, Cami. It's always great to just kind of recenter and bring thoughts about organizing and kind of getting our spaces put together back to the forefront.
Well, I love
Keeping
that
an
I
eye
could
out here.
figure out how to like read the chat, see people on their video. Like I'm putting all the pieces together, and it's really, really fun, and it makes it a lot less nerve-wracking when we can all just be vulnerable together and feel like we're in our home space. So we're all in the place of just trying to make it better, right? And it's a really good space to be in, and that's the only space we need to focus is, all right, I'm here. How do we make this better? How do we make an impact?
Absolutely. All right. Well, it looks like we're not getting too many other questions here.
Lots of thank yous. Thank you.
And thanks everyone for so much of your comments and your personal sharing in the chat. It's definitely, I think a lot of us have learned from each other in the chat as well. All right. Well, with that, I think we're going to go ahead and close. Oh, one quick question. How often do you file?
How often do I file? Well, let's see. I mean, this is the baseline of starting your categories. So I try not to create a file unless I have to. I don't like filing systems. I like working systems, and I like archive, but I'm constantly editing. If you ask my partner, he'll say to a fault every day, all the time. He'll come home and the kitchen is in the living room. Not really, but I'm moving stuff all the time. I'm editing it all the time to figure out what works best for my space and for my systems. Always asking what can work better. So this is a good baseline starting line, again, with your envelopes, a sticky, large category, paring it down until it makes the final edit of your filing system. And your filing system really should be at the front of it, things you need for quick reference, and towards the back of it is all your archival, maybe workable, but you're really not getting into it that often, your taxes or home documents, things like that. But really filing, I try to do as minimally as possible. for our team, we also, like I said, we use Google Drive a lot. And that's wonderful for being able to share with a team. We don't have to organize it physically. Everything goes right there and is organized.
Sounds like almost filing until the filing is done on a bit of a continuous basis. All right. Well, thank you so much, Cami. Thanks, everyone. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. It's a beautiful day out, so definitely get out there and
It
enjoy the sun.
is sunny in
Cami-
Seattle. Thank you.
I know.